Hi everyone, Ray from Pro String again with another racket restringing tutorial. Today's racket will be a badminton racket, a Yonex Nanoflare 1000 ZZ. As you can see, I'm unraveling the set of string that the client has provided themselves. Yes, we do string rackets. We will string your racket if you provide your own string, no problem for us. But yeah, it does come in a packet with a little plastic tie. Don't let it just drop because you may encounter yourself a problem or a headache before you even start. I'm not entirely sure exactly what you guys can see. Let me see if you can see the full racket. Well, no, but anyway, you'll get the gist of it. So, for my badminton rackets, the way I measure it is 13, well mine, the badminton rackets I string for clients. 13 and a quarter, 13 and a half lengths of the full racket, not just the racket head, however, the whole racket. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and a little. Alright, I know I have plenty of string with this. I have zoomed the camera lens slightly in for you guys to see everything that's going on here. Hopefully that works because I can't get that much closer because of the badminton shaft and grip, for example. But cool, so as you can see, I'll take the racket off anyway, just put it back on. So find yourself the middle, yeah, which at the bottom is normally much easier. As you can see, I'm not applying much pressure at all. Let me double check. Can you guys actually see? Well, you would see up here, wouldn't you? Well, at least here, look. So I'm going to reopen. I'm not applying much pressure at all, guys. Nothing at all. The badminton racket, all rackets, especially badminton rackets, you need to be careful. Don't apply much pressure. You need that little space for the racket to do its thing. And go into the shape it does need to go into when it's being strung. Okay? Always starting from the bottom, guys. On a badminton racket, always. There's no other way. Not like tennis and some squash. Pull yourself a decent amount of string. Back down. Yes, 2 mains, 1 to each side is what you need. And then this is 11 by 11 to each side, 22 by 22 stringing pattern on this racket. I need 10 more. It's 11 to each side, but I need 10 more because I've already got 1 in the middle. So I'm going to count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Leave yourself a little bit of extra string so you have no issues reaching the tension head. I like leaving a little bit less. There you go. Make sure your clamps. I've just come off stringing a squash racket, which I thought I was making the video. It turns out somehow it stopped on me within the first few seconds. So shame, because it was actually a very interesting stringing pattern. So make sure you regulate your clamps to the thickness of the string that you're going to string with. You shouldn't have to clamp very hard on the string. If you're having to push with lots of, when I mean the clamp, I mean this. It should just go on nice and easy. A little bit of pressure perhaps. Right, move your clamp upwards. Double check your tension on the head in itself, on the mounting system, and you should be good to go. So, I forgot to check. Oh no, I didn't forget. So 26 pounds, good practice to double check. Make sure you're using the right tension that your client has requested. Sometimes, a lot of the times, there'll be a small gap here when you pull your first main string. Just make sure you take that gap away, but again, not applying much pressure. So as you've seen, yeah, and there's no sliding at all. So very little pressure I'm having to apply to close my clamp. So we're going to pull 3 to each side as always. To each side, that's our second main, 3 mains to each side, should I say. Go a little bit tighter. All the strings decided to move on me. Badminton strings are very thin. I'll tell you right now, I forgot to mention, I believe, the string that we're using. It is the X-Bolt. Client attached it to the racket with some tape. It's the X-Bolt 65. Yeah, I don't know if you can see, but 10 meters. And the thickness of the string, if it's not on the front, it'll be back on the back. Gauge 0.65. So, other side, I've done 3 to this side. You can hear that sounds quite nice already. Might be a little bit tight for my liking. Not that I even really applied much pressure, but as you saw, able to clamp the string with one finger. Double check my camera, make sure everything's working smoothly. I'm not talking just to myself again, thinking I'm making a video, and I'm not. Cool. Second main to the other side. And so on and so on. So we'll get to the point, so once you do 3, 3, 6, right? And then another 3 is 9. You'll get to the point where you finish off with just 2 mains to each side. We get a lot of badminton rackets actually. I think people don't realise how popular badminton actually is, at least in the UK, where we do have a very diverse bunch or crowd. Typically takes me, I know I'm talking and perhaps stopping a little bit to show you a few things. I don't get incredibly technical. I am more of a do person, so hopefully I am saying all the right things for you guys to get as much as you can from this video. So there's your 6th main string on that side. My short side. Short side is normally the side that you're going to tie a knot on. I'm talking about knots. We will do a 1 piece, which equivalent to a 2 knot stringing job. I can do 4. I typically just do 2 for badminton, unless the client suggests otherwise. I feel like the tension drop is much less than a tennis racket, for example, where I always do 4 knots. As a religion, pretty much, always. Holds the tension much better than 2 knots. But I feel that badminton is not, of course there's tension loss, but it takes longer, perhaps. Strings suffer less. It's not like in tennis, we're using a lot more force, heavier. Of course, the tennis ball compared to a shuttle, a badminton shuttlecock, is much greater. The weight of a tennis ball is 51, 52 grams, and the shuttle, that's a good question. It can't be more than 20 grams, I'd imagine. Okay, so I've actually done 6 already. Don't know if you guys are following. But now I'll just continue to this side, which is completely fine. No need to alternate to one side as long as you're compensating well and giving yourself good symmetrical balance, let's say. The frames do suffer a lot, guys. They go through a lot of stress when being strung. Hence the reason why we do 3 to each side and so on and so on. Always compensating the tension on the racket as much as possible. Trying to keep our rackets for as long as possible and the best health possible. Especially in badminton, well, it goes for all sports, but badminton, if you're stringing one side, you're really risking it. You're really playing with fire, because my guess, especially at a high tension, you may be in risk for breaking someone's racket. Guys, I'll show you now again, but I did use what I call a stringing aid. Some people will use maybe a badminton string or something like that. I have seen other videos on YouTube when I was learning where I got the idea from, because I kept encountering myself very difficult spots where I couldn't, you know, have a main string covering the cross string and really struggling to get the string through. So this does help. What does help on any type of racket, whether it's squash, tennis, or badminton, is giving yourself a good thin, good angle on the edge or end of your string, if that makes sense. So I've just got stringing aid in my hand here because I know that I'm going to need it on this next main because it covers a cross string. So keep that into mind, guys. I'm just using a piece of tennis polyester or co-polyester or even monofilament string. I found that I can use them over and over and over for a while. No damage when I'm taking the string out, which is great. Just found that badminton string wasn't doing the job for me. It wasn't giving me as much space as a tennis string. Obviously, badminton being much thinner than tennis, so I'm getting more of a cushion against the racket, let's say, and a little bit more spacing for me to get through certain holes that are covered by main strings. Okay, my last main before I tie my knot, and I do say tie my knot, but I'm not going to pull my knot. I have a little bit of a different way of stringing the badmintons when it comes to starting the crosses, so I could do the knot now or later, but I'll just do it now. So the thinner the string, guys, is 0.65 millimeters. I recommend it for feather shuttle players. Plastic is very aggressive on the strings, therefore you're at risk of using breaking strings very quickly if you're using a very thin string with plastic shuttles. My Parnell knot, right there, my finishing Parnell knot, which is the same as my starting knots. I use the Parnell knot for everything. All types of knots. And I'll show you why I'm not tightening yet, because if not, it just can create a little bit more headache for me, because it covers a few holes. The crossover from the hole from the knot string, let's say, covers a few strings. I'll show you in a moment. If you can see here, it covers 1, 2, 3 holes, 3 cross strings, which I therefore obviously at the bottom I'm not using the string aid, the string aids, the little green things at the top here. I'm not using those at the bottom because there's nothing covering. It's just what would be covering is my knot hole string from my knot. So here you go. I'm going to do 3 crosses, not 2, which would be the norm. At least if you're using the stringing one ahead system, which is great because if you're weaving and just pulling one string and then pulling it and then so on and so on, it makes it much harder to weave the next string. But you'll see what I mean. I'll go through that with you guys in a moment. So there you go. As you saw, no issues to get the string through. Should be about the same here. There you go. So as you can see, my string is still loose here. That's going to be all sorted out in a second once I pull this one and one more through. It made sense to me to pull 3 through. That shouldn't make any issues or change anything really. And maybe a very helpful tip if you are really just starting out as well. It's not something I would do on tennis or squash racket, but badminton, yes, because you want to stay away from this very nasty piece of tool, your awl, which is incredibly helpful for many situations if you know how to use it correctly. If you're starting out, stay away from the awl if you can. Right, one more, and then you'll see exactly, well, hopefully you can see exactly why I do it and why it's helpful. There you go. So as you can see, hopefully, I shouldn't probably need to do anything. Goes straight through. However, if I apply tension to my knot, right, which is this string here, as you can probably see, if I pull that a little bit, it starts closing in, right? So that means what that really is doing is taking away, well, adding tension to my knot, taking away the lag, therefore making it more difficult to get through the holes that I need to get through. So I've done my 3 crosses at the bottom, which for me it works really well. It's something I started at the beginning. I thought, well, why can't I keep getting through these holes? Why did I tie that knot? Did I need to tie the knot? Probably not, like you're seeing. Now I'm just going to tighten my first, I'm going to add half a pound, which is probably 0.2 kg, to my cross strings. Yonex recommend this in order to keep the isometric shape that all the badminton rackets have that Yonex make. There you go. Clamp my first cross string. And as you saw, I was able to get through all the crosses on my first few crosses easily. As we get to the top again in a bit, you may see that I might struggle on some holes. But that's why I'm using the stringing aids, to avoid that. To avoid the headache, heartache, whatever you want to call it. Check my camera view. We're all good. Should I zoom in a little bit? What do you guys think? Okay. Let's see. That looks okay now. Just hopefully that's a bit helpful. Now we're doing the crosses. I'm not going to cut my remaining of knot left over from my knot yet until I do a few more. I just don't have space. I've got the clamp there. I could have left the clamp a bit further away, but it's not touching anything, so it's fine. Make sure your clamp never touches the frame, the grommets. The grommets are the little black things, the holes, the plastic pieces where we put the string through. And just a reminder, if you are struggling to pull the strings through the holes, which I am now encountering because my edge is very fluffy now. It happens a lot with badminton. Cut yourself a nice angle and hopefully on an easier, there you go, and it's come straight through. Move that string, move the string, don't just pull. You need to pull up and down. You don't want the string and the crosses and the mains having lots of friction, because what you can do is slightly burn the string and it leaves little notches. And if you do get a racket restrung by somebody and you see lots of little notches or like dinks in the string, you know that they've done a poor job of pulling the string through far too quickly without using their hands. So as you see here, I'm going to do my weave, one ahead. As you can see, I've got one here already that I haven't pulled, but it's a system called one ahead. And always using your hand, left or right, depending which side you're going to pull the string from. To avoid any damage to the string. Alright, I'm going to cut my knot now. Clamps further away, not in the way. Nice and short. Don't go crazy on it though. Leave yourself a little bit, but not too long either, which makes it look very unprofessional and aesthetically ugly. Move the hand with the hand. Then you can pull the string almost as quickly as you want. Of course, within reason, without being an animal. Using a Wilson Bayardo, guys, stringing machine wise, Wilson Bayardo original, great machine, fantastic machine. I've now had it almost 6 years, not a single issue. Oh, slightly slipped. Pull it through again, just to be sure. My tension is nice on that one string I was pulling. Guys, don't be lazy, by the way. Don't be lazy and pull 2 strings at a time, yeah? Your client will notice the difference and they won't come back. Unless they're a beginner or somebody who's really not fussy about what their strings feel like, etc., or just don't know the difference. Which, in all honesty, there's a lot of people that don't know the difference. But in badminton, I find that people can tell a lot easier. They can just feel the string when they tap it against their hands. And every now and again, I get some people flicking it. There's a certain noise that they get accustomed to when they just flick the string. Weirdly, yeah. So badminton is very noticeable, actually, the sound the strings make when they're tight or not. and people can tell pretty quick. I've become very popular in the badminton community for one reason or the other, which is great. Keeps me busy. Not that I'm not busy, but yeah. I don't let anybody string badminton rackets, guys, for my company. I had one very bad experience, and according to a lot of other people out there as well, there's lots of bad badminton stringers. Looks like I'm struggling to get my string through the hole, which can only mean one thing, because there's no mains covering. There you go. Again, you can see the fluff that starts coming up sometimes, where my edge is now no longer pointy, because the holes are so small. On badminton rackets, you really need a nice sharp edge as often as possible. So if you're a bit worried about leaving the string a bit short at the end when you finish your job, because you're going to cut the edge quite a few times, leave yourself a few centimeters extra, perhaps a few inches more maybe. So just going back to the bottom of the frame, there is, hopefully you can see it, 1, 2, 3 shared holes. 1, 2, skip 1, 3 shared holes. What is a shared hole? If you haven't noticed, it is the cross string and the main string in the same hole. Hence the reason shared. They're sharing the hole. Okay. This is a very nice string for, I think I've already mentioned, but to be safe, very nice string for your players who use feather shuttles. Badminton strings and rackets are very delicate, guys. Very delicate. So when you're starting out, if you're starting out, always just take that little bit of extra time. I'm just stringing at my automatic kind of speed. I'm trying to point out as much as I can. I'm not trying to go any faster because I'm making a video. I'm not trying to impress anybody. Just going to my own rhythm. Of course, as time progresses, you will get faster if you're someone that's just starting out. Okay, we're about to encounter on our next weave, not this one, but the next one, a shared hole. So there's always shared holes top and bottom on almost every badminton racket. Is it the Forza brand, F-O-R-Z-A. They seem to have most of their models with no shared holes, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see that many of those rackets anyway, but it does ring a bell that they don't have shared holes. Grommet, a single grommet, like in tennis or squash. Well, tennis and squash, some of their rackets, especially head rackets, do have shared holes as well. As you guys just saw, I just had to cut myself a nice sharp edge again. There you go, that should be nice, yeah. I don't know if you guys noticed the pliers I'm using there, they have an angle on them. I have straight ones as well. So you guys can see the difference. I never use the straight ones, the angle ones always against the frame, so they fit really well for purpose, for stringing. So I highly recommend investing a little bit of money into pairs like here, for example. I don't know if you guys can see, but it just makes my life easier. The angle these pliers have. Just curious, what time are we on? 25 minutes? Oh, 24 and a bit. Woo. So close. do tend to get quicker with badminton rackets when I do a couple back to back. Again, not that I normally feel the absolute rush to especially badminton rackets. I am much more careful than squash and tennis. Not that I'm not careful in squash and tennis, but I think being that little bit extra careful on badminton rackets is definitely the way to go. Another shared hole. This one of the larger ones tend to be on this side where there's no issues of getting the string through. Oh, a little bit of a grommet hanging off here. Just a little small piece of plastic I'm gonna get rid of. There you go. The grommet is still in good shape actually. Always check your grommets, guys. Before you start a racket, you can change them once the racket's mounted onto the machine. But you know, once you have done a few mains, especially once you get to crosses, you may have no chance of changing any grommets by then. So check the health of all the grommets, make sure there's no cracks or any broken ones, because if not, then you could be stringing the racket, the string could break on you, and then you've lost money on string, or it could be your client's string. You therefore have to then, well, the good people out there, at least good stringers out there, honest stringers out there, will then you'll have to buy the string for your client again. So it becomes less worthwhile. If you're having to fork out for the string, then it bites into your profit, which oddly enough in the stringing business there is not that much profit. I charge £20 for labor. Started at 14 when the business was fresh days, so we put up our prices 3 times, £2 3 times over 6 years, 5.5 years, just over 5.5 years since we started. I am stringing from my home, and here you go, one more weave. It's not a shared hole, and there's no main string covering either. Make my life, there you go, nice and easy. Bing. Okay, one more cross, and up your tension 15 to 20% for your finishing knot. Oh, another one, guys, I see a lot. I mean, if you've got this type of machine, hopefully you've got the knowledge going with the quality of the machine. So if you've got a good machine, hopefully you're also a good stringer, but it may not always be the case. You might decide to buy yourself a very good machine from the get-go, which is not a bad idea if you're gonna fully commit to it. Do not pull your knots with your tension head. Do not pull your knots with your tension head. I see this too many times. It drives me mad. Don't do that. Don't do that, guys. And then back through my first hole. Don't pull the string hard, guys. Don't pull it hard. You can see just enough. I've got no lag. You can see here the string's barely moving. I've got no lag. No need to pull harder, because if not, what will happen? Especially badminton, you'll rip the string, and I've done it before. I have done it before, especially at the beginning. Not necessarily ripping the knot, but what happens is if you apply too much tension, pressure onto the knot, you're ripping into the actual main string. So yeah, and guys, never ever ever, okay, on this racket it's more difficult, tie your knot on a shared hole. So this shared hole, you wouldn't do a knot here or here. I see that a lot on badminton, a lot. There should be space somewhere at the top where it's going to look much better, and just better for everything, for all types of purposes. Tie your knot on a main anchor string at the top. There you have it, guys. The Yonex Nanoflare 1000 ZZ completed. I'm just gonna tighten up, no, straighten up a few strings, make it look real nice for the client. My strings tend to come up quite straight, so that's it. music to my ears. Nice and straight, as you can see. Hopefully you agree. But there you have it, guys. Another day, another racket. All right, guys. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Hopefully that was some useful stuff for you there. Any comments? All feedback welcome, because it's something I've just started. I am uploading quite a few videos to give you guys as much content as possible, and we'll take it from there, guys. Take care. Happy stringing. Bye bye.